Ich heiße Sia Banihashemi. I am the Senior Product Manager for MindManager, along with Marian Kosmanek here, who's joining me. So today I'll be going over a presentation for you called MindManager Today, Tomorrow, Forever. And I'll just go ahead and get started. So I wanted to start with a little bit of story so you can understand both a little bit about MindManager, which I'm sure many of you already know, but also a little bit about when I joined. So in 1998, sorry, this is already wrong, but it should say 1994. I was corrected on this last night at dinner, but in 1994, MindMan was first created, and there's lots of books about the cancer code out there, so I'm sure you can check those out in the background of that. And then in 1998, MindJet was founded. And one of the notable things about MindManager and MindJet, and one of the things we discussed as well last night, was about this early collaboration. When did MindManager, when did MindJet first have co-editing, real-time collaboration? It was way before it was popularized by Google Docs or some of these other big names that you hear that people think about for collaboration. So it's an interesting thing to understand how MindManager was really a pioneer in this space the whole time. In 2009, collaboration evolved. There was some products that had video in them and different things like that, and they were built on Flash, unfortunately. So as we all know, Adobe Flash, had some issues and is no longer with us. So in 2014, I joined through an acquisition that MindJet had with Spigot. And at that time, I was a user experience designer, and I was the lead user experience designer. And so I came over and they said, hey, we want to, see what you can do with MindManager. Let's see what type of, ideas you have to improve MindManager. One of the first projects that I worked on with MindManager was a project to make it easier to use for more people, okay? And so, we did a lot of studies in our office in San Francisco where we watched new customers try to use MindManager, and they didn't understand all the quick and easy ways you could interact with it. There's a lot of keyboard shortcuts that, of course, any of us who use it a lot, pressing enter, pressing control enter, doing these things makes it very rapid to create topics and insert your ideas. But when we observed new people, they didn't know about these keyboard shortcuts. They were used to using their mouse. And so, they weren't quite understanding how to build the map. And they came to the application, and there was one topic in the middle of the screen, and they didn't know what to do. So we did a lot of kind of experimentation, and you see some of that here. Different types of experimentation. There was a version with a button here that would create open a sub-menu, and eventually we landed on what we have today, which is the quick add frame, which lets you quickly add topics in the direction that you click that. And so after we kind of tested that with users, we found that new users really had a greater adoption for that. They would start to click those and understand, oh, I can build out my hierarchy this way. Later on in 2016, another project that I worked on was flowcharts. So bringing the first version of flowcharts to MindManager. And back then, it was very rudimentary. There wasn't a lot you could do with it. And there was a lot of problems. So while we introduced flowcharts, there was a lot of issues with it. Topics would get huge and, get all over the place and all kinds of things. But it was something that was very near and dear to me because as a UX designer at the time, I wanted to use MindManager to show the process of how things work inside of applications. So when we were designing them, I wanted to say, hey, a user's going to do this, and then they might do this or this, and then this happens. And MindManager struck me as a very visual tool to be able to explain this both to stakeholders as far as what we plan to do, as well as the engineering team so that they could understand what we're building. We went through UI redesigns. I'm sure you remember the very sort of line-stark icons that we had in 2016 as well. We did a new templates gallery, and you can see how many fewer templates there were back then when we were working on the very first version. And then in 2016, we also were acquired by Corel. So that was a great new opportunity, and it came with a lot of cool new ideas in the leadership and management there, and that was a really cool opportunity. In 2017, we added our first version of Places, where really thinking that we needed to understand and let enterprises use the storage that they want to use, right? To say, hey, we know that you're working with these different storage providers. We want to let you open files from there. We want to let you collaborate on files from there. So we did a lot of work to integrate with all of the big storage providers at the time. We also introduced publishing in 2018 to make it easier to share. And this was a very unique thing because, it was really, when we started talking to users, they were expressing this need to share a snapshot of what they had in their map, not just something where everybody can edit it, or if I make an update, for example, then everyone's going to see that I'm in the middle of making a thought. So publishing was this opportunity to publish a snapshot, but then you could have that document continue to live, you could make changes to it, and you could decide when you were going to share the next version of it by doing an update. So really, really interesting project there that enabled sharing in a different way than you see in a lot of other applications. In 2019, we introduced background objects and shapes, so you could put squares and triangles and circles and arrows and all sorts of things into the background to create more dynamic diagrams. In 2019, we also did Kanban view, and over this time we had started to add this concept of views, which was very unique to MindManager at the time, and really allowed people to take something that's in a map format or in one format and then transform it with the click of a button into something completely different, right? By categorizing things now in tags, in columns, right? So maybe you have, or even in a flowchart, you have some diagram where everything is all over, your map, but then you could click a button and bring everything into these organized columns and see things in new ways. In 2020, co-editing kind of returned. I say sort of because this was a period where you would click a button and then the co-editing would jump to a web browser and you would do your co-editing there, and then you could close that and come back. Wasn't the best experience and involved a lot of dialogues and things like that. So we knew we had to keep working on that. Also in 2020, we launched the Teams app. So this was an opportunity to integrate more deeply into Microsoft Teams and allow people to open maps from there, work more closely with the maps in SharePoint and piggyback on the permissions, which we knew sharing was a big deal for people. And Teams made sharing really easy because you could say, hey, I have this team and everybody there has access to all these files. And so we knew we wanted to kind of have something in there so that people could use it during meetings, they could more easily collaborate to do documentation or any other types of things they do in Teams. In 2021, we introduced a new online licensing and admin portal, which allowed us to give enterprises and enterprise admins much more control over their users, to be able to turn settings on and off across all platforms that we have, and really empower them to do things that they were not able to do before. In 2021, this is definitely one of my pet projects, and when I looked at my in my design files, I had this actually like in 2019 or something as the first picture of this or something, but it took me until 2021 to build the business case for this. I mean, it was a difficult thing because it was a very big undertaking for the engineering team. They're like, what? We have to redo the whole, layout engine and all this stuff. But we knew, when people would look at MindManager, a lot of times they would say, oh, it looks kind of, funky, it looks dated or something like that. And so we knew we had to do something about one of the things that makes MindManager so great is all the, information that you can add to topics. That's one of the things that makes it unique, right? In other applications, you can't just add so many different types of metadata. And so we knew we kind of had to lay this out better, make it look nicer. And so, we built the business case around this. We did some surveys to kind of ask people, which do you think is better? Which do you think you would prefer to use? And really there was overwhelming support for the modern design. And we also knew we had to keep the legacy one for people that, really, really still liked that one. So that was modern topic info. In 2021, we also added the text accelerators. This was something that people do in all kinds of apps, right? You can say at a person and you'll quickly be able to, if you use Microsoft products, you've done this probably plenty of times if you're in Teams or something. So adding that to MindManager, making it faster and easier to do tagging and to add that information to your topics just through keystrokes, right? At Marian, and there you go, you added a resource. In 2022, we rebranded and we became Aludo, which means all you do, right? And it's all about everything you do at work and bringing together the story of the company with all of the different productivity tools that we have available. And with that, we've really started to try to embrace that vision as we continue down the path of creating MindManager. In 2022, we introduced native co-editing as well, which was another, our next version of co-editing inside of the desktop applications. So it's all native inside of there. There's no need to go to a web app. And so the user experience is much better because of that. But we still saw some issues around people really wanting to authorize their third-party storage, right? Or having trouble with giving permission. So maybe they said, okay, I'm okay with MindManager, accessing my OneDrive. But then once they did that and they put the file there, then they thought they were done and then, didn't have to do anything else. But it turned out, well, no, you still needed to give permission to those people in OneDrive. And that also was a complicated thing that we had with the native co-editing experience. So still work to do there. We also added the status overlay, which kind of streamlined a lot of the different types of information that we show in MindManager regarding co-editing so yeah, we had the status overlay, and that's sort of where I'll end the story for this part. So next up, what I'm going to talk about is this concept of MindManager today, tomorrow, and forever. And this is really this is about the evolution of how we think about MindManager. Okay, and I'm going to start this with a little bit of an example, without talking about MindManager first. Hopefully, you follow me on this one, but this is about a mindset, right? Today, if I'm just thinking about today, I might say, I really want to binge watch my favorite show on Netflix. I want to sit, I want to eat popcorn, I want to watch all 17 episodes of whatever it is. Maybe some people, how many are watching Lupin? Anybody? Lupin? I heard that was popular, maybe. Okay, maybe not. Oh, go one, yeah, okay, all right. How many people, 90 Day Fiance? Do they have that in Germany? I don't know, okay. So you might say, if I have a today mindset, I want to binge watch Netflix, right? If I think about tomorrow, I say, well, I have this big meeting tomorrow. I probably can't binge watch the whole thing. Maybe I can watch a couple shows, but I need to think about the meeting, so maybe I need to get some rest, right? But then when we change our thinking about forever, right? We say, hey, we have to take the long approach. If I'm going to be here for a long time, what do I need to think about? And that then might be that, hey, I need to limit my screen time. Screen time has been proven not to be great for us. And, I need to make sure that I'm not spending all my time in front of this. I need to make sure I get out and walk and move my body. I have to do things that are healthy for me so I can have a long, happy life, right? So what I'm kind of getting at here is about, a shift in mindset in the strategy for MindManager. So, maybe when we think about MindManager today and we had the concept of thinking today, we might have said, hey, we're a mind mapping tool. When we think about it tomorrow, we might say, you know what? No, we're a productivity tool, right? But when we think about it forever, we say, we want to turn ideas into action. What do we do? How do we build an application? How do we build an experience where we are turning ideas into action on a regular basis? When we think about kind of today, again, we might say we're Windows software. That's it. Hey, we're Windows software. When we think about tomorrow, we might say, okay, maybe we should have a Mac application too, right? But then when we think about forever, we need to think about being multi-platform, right? We need to say, hey, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're on your iPad, if you're on your phone, if you're on who knows what the next device is. I mean, there's devices now that go on your shirt or the Apple has the new goggles you can wear. Are we going to be there, right? How do we make an application that lasts forever, that's going to be multi-platform and is wherever you are? Today, we might say, we integrate with Microsoft apps. We're a gold partner. Tomorrow, we might say, you know what? We need to integrate with Jira too. If we think about it forever, though, and this is very important, we have to think about that we're constantly maintaining and improving our integrations and building on those partnerships, right? We don't want to have dead integrations. We don't want to have things that don't work anymore. We don't want to have things that the user experience is not world-class. So it's really a mindset of making sure that when we invest in an integration or we start down the path of an integration, that we're continuing that process and making it the best it can be over time. If we think about today, we might say, we sell software licenses. Okay. When we think about tomorrow, we might say, and we sell add-ons. But when we think about forever, we want to think about consistently providing value, right? We want our customers to be happy and enjoy their experience and feel that the value that they're receiving is consistently giving them what they expect and what they want. And so this is really just to kind of say that, from the strategic side of MindManager, we really are trying to think about forever, and we're trying to look forward and make sure that, MindManager is something that's around forever. It's near and dear to my heart. I use it every day. And, if it goes away, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I myself am forcing myself to, look at it this way, and I'm trying to bring the organization with me to think about MindManager forever. Okay, next up, I want to talk about customer focus in the product management team. So it's important for us to, just make sure that everybody understands how customer focused we are. We really want to make data-driven decisions, and we do that in a number of ways, right? We conduct surveys on a regular basis. We conduct customer interviews. We read, respond, and consider posts made on the MindManager community forum. We conduct usability studies. I mentioned earlier with the quick add thing, that was, an example of something that came from a usability study. And we use all this information to really determine our product roadmap based on these findings, right? We get feedback from sales members. We get feedback from our exceptional sales engineering team who talks to people in trainings all the time. And we care about their feedback immensely in helping to drive what we do at MindManager and making sure that MindManager is around forever. A recent example of this, we did customer interviews last year, and there was a number of companies here that are shown that we interviewed, and we really tried hard to get the things that they talked about, to vet them, to see are other customers wanting the similar things? How can we find common ground and put things into the application that everybody wants? So when we try to prioritize those requests, we really try to find additional sources of input through surveys or interviews or community that support what individual customers are saying so that we can really drive forward on their requests. An example from our 2023 customer survey, this is some statistics, that we used this survey for last year's roadmap. So a lot of the things that I'll show for the version 23 came from these 2,600 respondents on the survey. About 55% of those were enterprise customers. One of the things that came from this, for example, is the highlight connections, where we had a customer kind of say that they thought this was an important piece. It then appeared on our survey that same year, and it really got strong support on the survey. And we said, this is really a great evidence of something that we need. And it became a feature that I've heard a lot of people say they really enjoy, because when you have a lot of relationship lines or dependencies, it can get confusing and jumbled, and this really helps you to identify and clearly see the connections between them and the paths between them. So next I'm going to recap what we did in 2023. Just as a refresher, maybe a lot of you already know all of these things, but we did have a new Jira linker that lets you connect to Jira Cloud or Jira Data Center. So if you're an offline customer, this is available. If you're an online customer, it's available. And you can connect to either type of Jira instance. And the connection is directly between your Windows client and Jira. There's no cloud layer at all. So for those that are really concerned about security, we don't actually even put any of that data into our cloud. It's a direct connection. But it lets you do a lot of cool stuff, bringing in different types of data from Jira, exporting that data to Jira, and if you need to do like multiple updates, maybe change the priority of 15 topics, you can do that really quickly. Really cool tool, and I highly recommend checking that out. We added whiteboarding through some templates for whiteboarding and sticky notes that let you sort of stack them and do typical types of things you would expect on a whiteboard. We improved flowcharts, so going back to 2016, this is still something that we want to continue to drive forward on. And one of the cool things with this release was something called card mode, which enabled us to have a different user experience where the text inside of the topic, and you can see that in these two topics, it will resize itself to fit inside of the topic. So when you're in card mode, the topics are fixed in their size, and the text grows and shrinks depending on how much you put in. And what that means then in this version is ultimately that you end up with a much tidier flowchart experience. You don't have topics growing too big and then forcing you to reformat your whole flowchart. We also added OneDrive in the Microsoft Teams app so that you can access those files that might be in your chats, because for Teams, for some reason, they decided if you're in a channel, it goes in SharePoint, but if you're in a chat, it goes in OneDrive. Anyway, don't ask me. Okay, so we also added easier sharing in MindManager files to MindManager Web. Makes it really easy to share. You can do it right from the app. So when we talked about the problem with co-editing and making it so difficult to add permissions to everyone, this is helping with that in the sense that if you use MindManager files, then you can, provide those permissions really easily, right from inside the app. We added in the admin portal download resources. So if you have an offline license, you'll get your offline builds from here, or an online license, you'll get your online builds. So this is really, for IT admins and that type of person. And then again, beyond highlight connections, which we did in 23.0. In 23.1, we also improved relationship line routing. So the default routing is a lot tidier, cleaner, easier to look at. And you can see the difference here. In the same map, it's much easier to see what's going on in the new version. Okay, and now I'm sure what you've all been waiting for, the 2024 sneak peek. Okay, yeah, right. So I just want to, I need to preface this. It's very important that I preface this with this thing at the bottom here that's in red. It's probably not, maybe it's big enough. Roadmap not final, changes to timing and scope may occur. Okay, it's very important I say this because it's very early for us right now. You can imagine 2024 hasn't even started yet, right? We just got off 23.1 that we released, about a month ago or something. And the team is currently busy on 23.2. What? 23.2? See, his phone went off even for that. What's going on? Okay, so 23.2 is not something we usually do, but we're doing it this time because we have a little bit of a gap in our platform strategy, right? We said we want to be multi-platform. So in 23.1, the way our engineering resources lined up, we needed to kind of work on MindManager files on the cloud side and work on other things on the Windows side, like sticky notes and things like that. So what we're doing is kind of going back on each one of them, right? And so in 23.2, which is coming out in Q1 of 2024, okay, so we're going to be adding sticky notes to MindManager Web, right, and cloud products. So like the Teams app will also get sticky notes. And then on the Windows side, we'll be adding MindManager files. So you'll both be able to store your files there, access them, go back and forth between web and Windows. And really the main feature here that you're going to get is that easy sharing, right? So without having to have, people, like when you want to share something, you don't want them to think about, oh, I need to sign into my OneDrive and add the place and do this and get a permission and all those things, right? So what that's going to enable you is in the Windows app, you can have a local file, you can click the share button, it will automatically upload it to MindManager files, give you the share dialog where you can set it so the link anyone can access, or you can individually give people edit, some people view, whatever you need right from the app, and it's going to be seamless. They can open up the app and view all their stuff. So that's coming to Windows. And so that's 23.2. If you have a license for 23, you're going to get that update at no charge. It's part of your maintenance package, okay? Then we move into Q3 of 2024, where we're now planning our roadmap for the version 24.0. And like I said, we're very customer focused, so it's really important for us to make sure that we're getting the right customer data back before we just say for sure what this stuff is. And that's why I'm saying this is not final. We're still in the process. The survey for this year is coming out in December of this year. So there's still items that we have to check and double check and make sure this is what everybody wants. But one of the things on this year's survey is we're breaking up the survey into use cases. So each person that does the survey will self-select which use case they primarily use MindManager for. For example, we know organizing is one of our big use cases. So if you choose organizing, you're going to get a set of improvements that are specifically for organizing, and you're going to get to choose which of those you think are more important. So those are really the things that we're looking at for 2024. So I want to thank you. You can feel free to email me. If you have any questions, I'll be at the booth as well with Marian. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your customer day.